Former NDP leader Andrea Horwath was elected as the mayor of Hamilton after she stepped down on election day, June 2nd, in Ontario. Of course, what is now interim NDP leader Peter Tabuns took over. The party was in the midst of a leadership race, and the candidate who was acclaimed as party leader is the MPP for Davenport, who served for a while as the party's education critic, Marit Stiles, who joins me now. Thanks so much for making the time, and congratulations.
Hi, Wyatt. It's great to be here.
Let's just start out with obviously Andrea Horwath, the face that a lot of people know as NDP leader, fighting passionately for the issues that she cares about, she believes in, and that the NDP believes in. What can Ontarians expect with an NDP led by Marit Stiles after you take the reins of the party?
Well, I think you can expect an NDP that is preparing every day to engage with more and more Ontarians and to unite people behind a clear alternative to the progressive conservative led government of Doug Ford. And I think that's what Ontarians are looking for. They're looking for a strong official opposition, yes, but they're also looking for us to propose some solutions to the crisis that I think our province is in.
And when you look at some of the big issues that have been impacting people across the province, even recently looking at the strike that Ontario education workers were considering when they did their political protest in protest of the Ford government not increasing their wages, increasing support in the classroom. If you look at the rising cost of living, I mean, there seems to be a lot of issues on the forefront of Ontario politics. How do you plan to address some of those issues as the new NDP leader?
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, I think that what the situation that we're in right now, when I was running in the campaign for the leadership over the last few months, and I was crisscrossing this province, and there's a really great sense among Ontarians that things are not the way they should be. And so the crisis in healthcare, the crisis in our schools, as you pointed out, the fight to not only improve support for students in classrooms, but also, frankly, pay some of our lowest paid education workers a decent wage. This government continues to put our province at risk, right? And a lot of this is because they refuse to pay people a decent wage, to allow people, especially workers, to negotiate freely. They don't respect collective bargaining, and they don't really respect the rights of working people. And that's why we're in the situation we're in. I mean, the healthcare crisis right now is largely a staffing crisis. People don't want to work in the sector anymore because they don't feel respected. They aren't paid enough to get by. And as we heard during the education workers negotiations, a lot of our education workers are working full-time jobs and going to food banks. Something is not normal about that in Ontario. And I think it's up to the NDP to come up with solutions. And as I said, I think a big chunk of that is showing these workers respect and paying them fairly.
And I mean, I don't have to tell you this, as well as I do. The Ford government in the last election won a majority government. They have been able to practically pass anything they want and are willing to try hard enough to pass, given that they have the majority in the legislature. So even when you do take the reins of the party, when you do officially become the leader of the NDP and you can return to Queen's Park in February, and assume that position, how do you plan to go about things with the Ford Conservatives having a majority government?
Well, I always think to myself, yes, they have a majority, but just because you can pass everything that you want to doesn't mean you should. And I really believe that what we've seen from this government is not good government, right? We've seen a government that ran in the last election on some promises that they've actually since then broken, like protecting the green belt. Instead, as you know, they're moving forward to sell off large chunks of ecologically important wetlands and really important farmland that this province is going to need now and in the future. And so all of those things, the trampling on our democracy, changing the rules just because the way things are doesn't suit them. This is not good government. And so I would really like to see an ability to work together better across all party lines to meet the needs of Ontarians. We are, as you said, we're facing a lot of crises here, and the government wants to talk as if the changes they're making are all about addressing the affordability crisis or the housing crisis. But in fact, nothing they're doing is going to build new affordable homes. In fact, what it's going to do is put a whole lot more money into the pockets of a very few already very wealthy people and probably build a lot of sprawl. And that's not good and not healthy. So we in the NDP, we have solutions. We've talked a lot about them in the election. We are working constantly with Ontarians across the province to sort of get a handle on what people want to see happening in our province. I'd love it if the government was willing to engage more in an actual debate and conversation, and sometimes maybe even take some of our suggestions. I think Ontarians would love to see us working closer together.
All right, that is the soon to officially be Ontario NDP leader Marit Stiles when Queen's Park returns in February after Christmas break. Marit, thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Wyatt. Great to be here.